Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Roth Novack. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PartySlate. Many of you have seen some of our webinars throughout the pandemic. I'm so glad close to 200 people made the time to join us today. I would love to hear where you are zooming in from. You can feel free to change the chat to everyone. Tell us what cities you're coming in from. I know we have people from at least 30 states that have registered, and some from out of country. I think our Canadian and French friends here may have attracted some people from other markets, which is so exciting. But before we get started, New Jersey, come on, tell us where you're zooming in from. We'd love to hear. Before we get started with the panel, for those of you who are new to PartySlate, I'm going to give you a quick overview after we do our introductions, so I can tell you a little bit about who we are. But I can tell you from the last 7 years of building PartySlate, I have learned so much about this industry and how it operates and how to elevate your brand, especially in the digital space. And so today we've brought together an expert group of luxury event professionals from Paris, Miami, Toronto, and New York to talk about 3 main areas. 1, how to elevate your brand into the luxury space, or even if you're working in the luxury space, how to reflect that brand. 2, we're going to talk a little about your digital footprint, which I like to geek out about. And then 3, we're going to talk about managing high-end relationships, especially in this incredibly busy, demanding time period that we're in, a little feast and famine. Right now it is feast, and it's very, very challenging. So before I go into the kind of agenda and some of the questions, I would love each of our panelists to do a quick intro. We'll start with Chris. Chris, if you could tell us how you got into the event space, tell us a little bit about your business and the type of clients you work with.
Fantastic. I'm Chris Weinberg. I'm the founder and the lead event producer at Chris Weinberg Events. We are based out of Miami, Florida, and I started producing events about 20 years ago as a way to go back to work after raising 3 children who were a little older, and I felt like I could go back to work again. So it was just something I thought I could do on the side, and little did I know it would morph into a full-time career that it's become. And I started working with people in my local market, friends and people that I knew that were entertaining, and I thought that I could do something a little better for them. And today we have a business that majority of our clients are from all over the world. They come to Miami, South Florida for destination events, and that's the kind of business that we built here.
I love it. And Chris, you've been on PartySlate since the very beginning and part of our insider program. We're going to show your profile later, but your work is beautiful. And I know you do more than just weddings. You do mitzvahs, corporate galas. So I'm really excited to brag a little bit about your profile. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you. And thanks to PartySlate for helping us to build our brand and to become much more visible in the world, and to help me be able to better sell our services to our clients.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. I'm going to move on to Priya from New York. Priya, we met through WIPA originally, I know many, many years ago. Your weddings and events are beautiful. And I have to say your social media, I envy. You're out there all the time, and you're making your brand known, and you're stating who you are, and it's with such confidence. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the event space and a little bit about your business.
So, hi everyone, I am Priya from Premini Events. We are based in New York, but primarily do destination weddings. I pretty much can say I live out of a suitcase now. So between hotels and flights, I'm constantly in the air and testing out the firmness of many mattresses around the nation. But we do weddings all over the world, Morocco, Italy, Palm Beach, LA, Cabo, we're pretty much wherever the client wants to go. Got started in 2010. I think we all kind of just figured it out as we went along, and we just kind of saw what worked and what didn't. And, I'd say I really learned how to enter the luxury market when I knew that luxury meant a certain kind of refinement and expectation of customer service, client service, the way I presented myself, the way that my website looked, the way that my portfolio looked to the outside world. And so that was something that we really, really focused on, was the aesthetic, because if it looks luxury, it might be luxury. So I think that was a really, really big thing for us, of just making sure small things like, rebranding our company logos, high res photos, really, really curating that experience. So for me, that's exactly what luxury means to me.
Yeah, awesome. And Nancy, I did do a Clubhouse in the early days of Clubhouse with a global team, but this is our first webinar with anyone from Paris. So excited to have you on this webinar. Tell us a little bit about your business and how you got into the luxury event space.
Well, excited to be here. I'm Nancy LaTart of Fête in France. I'm based here in Paris, originally from the US, from the Chicago area. And I've been planning weddings here in France since 2009. It's a company that got its start in 2006 with my business partner, Anne. And it was really the idea being that, Anne was also American, living in Paris. And together we started to respond to the couples who are thinking about doing a destination wedding in France. And we really rode the wave from the couples where they were coming, just the two of them, doing sort of an elopement / mini moon together, but doing something really high end with all of the elements that you would want on an actual wedding. So beautiful photography and beautiful flowers and hair and makeup and a classic car and, a lovely venue for the wedding, and, a nice dinner, just the two of them. And then step by step, we grew the business where, it was weddings where it was 10 to 15 people and then 20 to 30. And, we rode this wave of destination weddings, of it being more visible and possible to have your wedding in France, because at that same time, a lot of the social media platforms were getting their start, and it was easier to reach these people. So, wedding blogs and Instagram and all of that helped us ride that wave. And for us, being in this space, I think that responding to a luxury clientele really requires a certain amount of, experience and solid foundations of being in the planning world, whether that comes from, previous planning experience or from previous professional experience. I fell into planning a little bit as a happy accident. I did an MBA over here in Paris and didn't necessarily expect to get into the wedding planning world, but I sort of ended up here, and it was, really a very serendipitous turn of events.
That's amazing. Well, it just sounds so glamorous being a wedding planner in Paris. So we'll have to work together on PartySlate Paris. We don't have a date yet, but yes.
With pleasure.
And Jordan, we share a agency background. So mine more digital agency. You have done traditional, digital, everything. How did you get into the luxury invitations world, and how did you transition from the agency to really leveraging those branding skills that you created?
Yeah, I've been in the agency over 15 years now. And for me, the marriage of the two spaces is actually quite, they actually complement each other really well.
Yeah.
It's odd to think that way, but that data and the creative side really kind of mesh in my business, and I support both B2C and B2B clients. So that's where I get to play in both spaces. I kind of stumbled into weddings, not intentionally. I have a theater background. I wanted to do production design, and I decided to ask my brother to do his wedding invitations when he was getting married about 8 years ago, and just kind of fell in love with it. I've always loved art and crafting and those kind of things, and grew into it. And I saw there was a need, especially here in Toronto. There was only one stationer who was doing the kind of work that I thought was possible. And then I was like, I'm going to carve out a little space to do something a little different. And then it's kind of grown from there.
Awesome. Well, Jordan's going to help me facilitate today, and any questions, please ask throughout the entire presentation, because we want this to be interactive. But I wanted to start our conversation. I'm just going to do don't worry, only a few slides to set this up, but I wanted to just share a little bit about, first of all, what PartySlate is and how we think about branding. And then I'm going to ask our panel some questions about how they think about their brand. So I created PartySlate about 7 years ago. I can't believe it. We're going to have our 7-year anniversary party in LA next month. We had to take a couple years off from the big events, as you all did as well, but we're coming back. But we wanted to use this concept of we're the only industry in the world that has professional content creators at all our events. We have professional photographers, professional videographers at all of these high-end events. And so there's this huge amount of content. And I really believe the future and really where we are today of marketing is content marketing versus banners and other things like that. So I wanted to create an easy way for myself to get inspired for all types of event, corporate, gala, mitzvahs, 50th birthdays, et cetera, but also a way for the industry to become better digital marketers. So PartySlate is a place, and I'll show the profiles later, where you can upload your beautiful photos and videos and really build a portfolio tool and also get connected with people that are actively planning larger scale events. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but in doing this over the last 7 years, I've learned a lot about the industry and a lot about branding, especially in the luxury space. So the first area we're going to talk about is, really thinking about what a brand is. And Jordan, you and I had a good conversation that a brand is not a logo. It's not your colors. It's not just a product. It's an entire perception, a gut feeling. What is this product or service? What am I going to experience when I work with this incredible panel? There's both company brands and then there's personal brands. PartySlate has worked really hard to build our brand as we're going after the top 10% of the market. We believe your work is the design and the art of the industry and putting you in a spotlight. And we put together kind of a simple brand guide. What is the core of our brand, our messaging, our style, our logo? And I'm happy to share this with anyone who doesn't have this. I really, really recommend starting with a simple brand guide, even if it's in your head. Writing it on paper is, I know Jordan and I know that with clients, once you write it down, it's much easier to live that brand. And so it starts with your purpose. Why do you do what you do? Your values, your personality. I know people like Marcy Bloom are very sarcastic in New York, and someone like Mindy is more romantic. Like, you have to, what is the right style for your brand and your identity? And there's also a concept of your personal brand. And Elizabeth, or Priya, I know you have both names. Priya, you talked before about this, about, you're both your personal brand, what you stand for, but also your company. And so I've worked hard to build my own personal brand around passion for digital education. I'm a geek and I love sharing digital education. I'm a female founder. I love to support strong women and men too, but women as well. And I really am a connector in the industry, and I love introducing and connecting people. So finding out what your 3 kind of bubbles are, or 2 bubbles for your personal brand, is also an important way to build this luxury brand. And so I guess my first question to the panel, and Chris, I'll just start with you, is when you started to do these higher end events, you started thinking about how to project your brand, what do you want to be known for? What are the types of things that you'd like to put out, either on your website, your PartySlate profile, or even like word of mouth, to build like the Chris Weinberg brand?
So that's a great question. Truthfully, I've always felt that entertaining and milestone celebration should be fun and memorable. So for me, it all starts with fun and memorable. We don't design the room, but we design the entirety of the guest experience. So really doing a deep dive into who this client is, what their vision is, what's important to them, helps set the tone for where we're going to go. And that's been very successful for us as we've grown our brand. I know the first 10 years I was in business, we didn't have a brand guide. We didn't have branding. We never worked on the business. We only worked really hard every day in the business. And so we were attracting some amazing clients, but we were also attracting clients that maybe weren't the right fit. They didn't understand us. And we really had to figure out a better way, more quickly, of how to match up with the right types of potential clients. And so we started to speak to that, and we were doing amazing events like you had mentioned earlier, but nobody was seeing our best work. So there was this disconnect connect. And so one of the things that was very instrumental to me was getting a lot of education, on the parts of running the business that I was not as well-versed or knowledgeable about. Like, I knew understanding how to people gather, and I knew what entertaining people in a fun and memorable way meant, but that was just the piece that made it successful. What really needed to happen was I needed to create that brand, or take a look at our brand and figure out a way that when you looked at our Instagram or when you looked at our website, and if you were a potential client of ours, you were like, yes, that's who I am. They identify with the various types of clients that we have and the events that we have.
Yeah, and I can say, working with you on our Miami launch party at the One Hotel, every little detail of the guest experience, from the entrance to the flip-flops on the beach to every little thought, was so masterfully thought out that it was just like clockwork how the evening ran. And I do think that's so important for a luxury client to really make that experience flow. So I love that. So thank you, Chris. I'm going to come back to you a little bit more on digital, but Priya, let's talk about your brand. Again, you've been spending a lot of time and investment. I know it looks like building your brand, having speaking engagements, really being part of the right network in New York. Tell us a little bit about how you think about your brand for your company, and maybe a little bit about personal branding too.
Yeah, so we have obviously the Premini page, and then we have the Elizabeth Priya Kumar page, because I want them to have synergy, but I also I'm more than just a wedding planner. There is another side to me that can inspire so many women, especially women in different cultures, right? Like the typical trajectory for like an Indian girl is like going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like those are the only two options. And so, taking a step back, I mean, my journey, I was originally in the Doctor of Pharmacy program, and going into my senior year, I was like, I don't want to do this. And my parents were like, no, you're definitely doing this. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. And the whole concept of being a wedding planner in the Indian community was just not even heard of, because it's the aunties that help. Like there's no real professional role for this. So I feel like we're kind of thought leaders in a way of paving the way of that, because there really wasn't anyone that I could have looked to for guidance on how to do that. So I kind of looked at the American market and just applied the Indian sticker to it, if that makes sense. And so how I've been able to identify my brand, and something that I say when I connect with people, when they are inquiring with us, is we are 100% luxury, but we are luxury relatable. We are the girl who's wearing a Chanel bag during the day, but eating chicken and rice out of a cart on the side of the street at night. Like, she is so versatile that she can be in big rooms and be a Bauer player and have an amazing career, but also just be so down to earth and super warm and super kind. And we lead with love here. So, we set that tone very early on, that I am totally, I'm not a handshake, I am a hug, which really sucked during COVID, but whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, that's who we are. And so I never move away from that specific goal, because if the client is a handshake, then they're probably just not my client.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that lead with love and that warmth that is, again, some brands are more, traditional, and other brands are kind of the warm side. That tone and understanding that, it's so important for how you write your posts and how you write your event descriptions on PartySlate, that really carries through. And there's not one right answer. The only answer is to know who you are, what's authentic to you. So Nancy, let's talk a little bit about you. When you got started, you went to get your MBA, you had this path, all of a sudden you're planning weddings and events. How do you guys differentiate your brand, and what do you want to be known for?
So the main thing is that since we're based here in France, and we're catering primarily to an international clientele, and when I say international, it's for the most part American couples who are coming to France. Yeah. We have some couples who come from the UK or from Australia or from Asia or from Canada, really from anywhere, but majority of our clients come from the US. And the differentiating factor for us is that we're based here, but we speak the language fluently. And, we understand the way things operate here. And, there's always that kind of moment of friction, because when you're planning a wedding, oftentimes couples are doing this for the first time. They don't really know what they don't know. And then you layer on top the foreign language, foreign culture, time difference, and it really kind of turns what is generally a complex project into an even more complex project. Right. And so, by being here, by speaking the language, but also being, native, of Native American culture. So kind of, having the American customer service, and also, the idea of understanding how, American weddings take place, and understanding those kind of cultural nuances that like a local, native French speaking planner might not have. That really is what sets us apart, because there are, wedding planning in France is a profession that's really developed over the past 15 years. But there's not that many of us over here who are, native English speakers. And I really do think that that's a huge point of reassurance for our couples who are contacting us, because they're busy. They want to be able to, get a hold of us and know that people are going to respond quickly. And so that American style customer service is very deeply ingrained in me. And so even though they're dealing with someone who's based in France, they still get that American style customer service. And then I become then the buffer between the, vendors, or, I can smooth those bumps in the road. And I think that in delivering a luxury experience, that's also what you're trying to do, is saying like everything is possible, and giving them a very seamless experience, not only on the day, but throughout the planning process. And through the communication skills, not just in the, in language skills, but in the communication skills, that's been really, really key. And when everyone had to go to Zoom, and everyone, was like, oh, dealing with long distance calls and dealing with people through interposed screens, I was in a great situation, because I had been training for that, for the entire time I've been doing this.
Yeah, I'm sure some engaged couples are like, what's this Zoom thing? And then all of a sudden everyone's on Zoom. I remember my first Zoom, I had been on with venture capitalists on Zoom for many years before the pandemic. And people were like, what's that platform you use? And now everyone's on Zoom, which is really great for the industry. I think it's good for the industry. So that's amazing. And then Jordan, I'm going to come back to you and ask a few follow-up questions, but Jordan, tell us a little bit about your brand, and how, again, being from the branding background, how do you position yourself in this kind of luxury invitations, paper and print world?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been really fun to, like, my background's in user experience. So the way that we approach events and event design and even branding is really about, what is the guest experience? What are all their touch points, and how do we elevate that to a level, especially in the luxury space, that they haven't seen before, or that is so tailored to that couple and that host that it is just like, chef's kiss perfect. They're just like, this is Susan's wedding. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is that, and it is their taste. It is their, that thing. But for me, it's where do we push it over the edge that, when they get their invite in the mail and it's made with a really unique material, and they're just like, what is this? And like, what are they going from there when they can kind of see this thing they get in the mail to when they go to the event? Like, there's a lot of really cool bridges we can do. And with my background in digital, it's, building a custom website that supports the invitation to, virtual mailers and, gifting and welcome bags. So it's like, how do you elevate all those touch points in a consistent way that really, gives that guest a level of experience throughout their experience that just is, second to none.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important when you think about it as user experience, because it is a user experience. And my background in large scale websites is actually a really good background for events, because you're really are creating an experience from the first time you get the invitation to, seeing it on social media, afterwards. So I think that's great. And so let's talk a little bit about the digital touch point. So we talked about the personal branding, and we talked about, this is where I'm really passionate about, that your digital footprint is much, much more than just your website and your social media. It is third-party platforms like PartySlate. I know there's a love-hate relationship, like, oh, there's so many platforms. I always tell people, pick a couple. You can't manage 7. Pick a couple and invest in really making sure your brand is represented. And then of course you need to think about how you show up in Google. So when it comes to websites, and again, Jordan, I know you have a lot of experience on that. I think it's so important in the luxury space to have that really strong handshake, simple navigation, an easy way to see your portfolio. I think, and again, Priya, how you said, you need to know the company, but you also need to know you as the founder or a partner at the company. So important to tell your founding story. I don't like it when I see those third-party bios that are kind of like, this is blah, 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 like it's really impersonal. It's like really get people to know who you are and why you love what you do. And then also position yourself as an authority, again, being on webinars, blogs, getting in PartySlate articles. It really does help you build that elevated brand. And I also say, no one on this call, of course, there are some logos out there, and I'm not going to name any names, that do feel like they're like 1980s logos and kind of hard to read and a lot of colors. So important to have that clean, elevated design and logo. That's not the only thing that matters, but I will tell you, I'm a very honest person. When I do website reviews for people, I will tell people they need to start from scratch. Most people don't, but some people really do need to kind of rethink what they're doing. And then social media, you guys know, is so important. You can't do everything. Ellen had this famous meme about how you change yourself in all these different environments. I actually think it's a little different. You do have to have that consistent kind of brand, but you have to speak a different language in these different platforms. So, TikTok is very different than LinkedIn, as you know. And so for me, the most important thing is that consistent posting. It doesn't have to be daily, consistent posting that ties back to your brand strategy. And then before we jump into the questions, third-party platforms, I believe Google, people start and end their search, with Google. So social media is important. Just don't put all your eggs in social media. Platforms like PartySlate and others have full-time SEO teams, and all they're doing day and night is getting their platform seen on that coveted first page of Google to lead them to your brand. So just think through, are you mass market or luxury? If you're trying to go in the luxury market, there's a lot of platforms that are mass market that may not be a good fit. Do you do more than just weddings? PartySlate has all types of events, elevated events, not just wedding. Do you want free listing? Do you want someone to hold your hand and do the work for you, which many people like? And how much time can you commit to actually keeping these profiles up to date? So again, I don't want to overwhelm people with, you have to do everything digitally, but I'd love to know from your perspectives on the panel, how do you, number one, make time for digital, and what are your priorities? Of course, your PartySlate profile's up there, but we'll do that for you. But what are your priorities between social, third-party platforms, and your website to portray this really important luxury brand? So Chris, I'll start with you. I know you have built out your team quite a bit. You have people helping you, which is amazing. How do you look at the digital space?
So we started with a complete rebrand 7 or 8 years ago, around the time of PartySlate's coming online, and all the education was about how to get Google to recognize you, how to attract the right fit clients, through your digital marketing platforms, or to have them as validators to the types of work that you do. Because as event producers or wedding producers, everything that's shown in those professional photos and videos on all of our feeds is nothing that we make. So we are really, putting a team together on behalf of our client and our client's budget that reflects the type of events that they want to do. So we looked at, starting with our website and reinvesting, and, many of us have had to multiple times redo our website. It can be really frustrating. If you're an event producer, you don't really want to stop and take time to birth a baby called a website, but you don't really have a choice. We had to identify who we were, what sellable images looked like for us, what we were going to, what our strategy was going to be for not just our website, but also for our Instagram. So if you go to our Instagram, you would see there's a pattern there that reflects who we are. We use quotes. We do put videos on there, and we try to show as much of our real work as possible at all times. And then along came PartySlate, and PartySlate.
I got to show your page while you're talking.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And PartySlate has really helped me specifically as a selling tool, because it's not as easy to update your website with the behind the scenes and SEO as it is to update, photos from an event we did, that we got back professional photos, a month after the wedding, and we just are able to take 50 or 60 photos and load them up. And I know your team is always available too to help with those things. But one of the things that we learned along the way when working with others is that, we have a voice, and it's very difficult for somebody else to just understand our voice. So we do a lot of the photo selection, and we do all of our captioning. And then we have people behind the scenes that help us make sure that everything's getting posted and posted properly. And so it is definitely a team effort. And
I like how you can show that you do more than just weddings. So you do some of the bar and bat mitzvahs in Miami, the milestone birthdays, the corporate events. I think that's great. And then of course, when you want to tell the full story, you can come in here, and these are all amazing storytelling, with the description and the event.
And if you were to Google search, let's say the Arch Center or Faino or a certain venue in Miami, very often PartySlate will be what shows up. So it'll say Chris Weinberg Events, at partyslate.com. And then you can you go right to that link because you want to see photos at Faino or at wherever venue or, whatever designer that we worked with. So this whole collaborative spirit that Cheryl and Sam, they're definitely amazing event producers on my team. And so it's very important to us that we put our content up as quickly as possible once we have those professional photos and videos, and that we highlight who all the vendors are that we work with, because very often somebody will find us because they were looking at a venue, or they'll find us because they were looking at a specific photographer that somebody said they should work with. So this collaborative effort of PartySlate and having the SEO and tying it into Google has been extremely helpful for us, because nobody's going to hire you just because their best friend told them to anymore. That's definitely 20 years ago. But what they are going to do is, if vendors and venues and Google all keep popping your name up over and over again, they're going to say, who is this company, Chris Weinberg Events? And let me take a look. And that's what we wanted to do. And that was our strategy 6 or 7 years ago. And it is totally paying off today. We have received in the last 6 months, we have received calls from Abu Dhabi. We've received a lot of corporate calls and different kinds of business, because we've done everything that Google wants us to do. We've done everything that PartySlate has asked of us. We've done everything that Instagram wants us to do. And this combination of everything together is like the garden that we started. We envisioned a garden, and then we said, okay, let's plant some seeds. And then we said, okay, we're going to water it. But the true lushness of the garden takes time. And you just have to trust that if you do everything right, at least I had to trust that if we did everything right, it would come to fruition. So year after year, it gets better and better.
It does take time. It's like an investment, and the ROI isn't immediate. And I always tell people that about SEO and also their PartySlate profile is the more content you build, the evergreen content, the more weight that Google sees that, oh, wow, this is updated. There's rich content here. And it's not just an empty, listing page that doesn't have any content. So you and your team are great to work with. So I really think you've done a great job with your digital footprint. And I think that, it really represents who you are and the clients you work with.
Thanks. And if I could add, a lot of us in the creative world are very stubborn about what we see and how we make things happen. And we live in the box of our own making. But I really think opening our minds and expanding and getting a little education, for example, about what a sellable image is, or what, does the target audience that we're looking for, are we speaking to them? And I think that that's really important. And we can't often see that because we're in our own little bubble. Yeah. So, working with the team at PartySlate, for example, getting great feedback, working with business coaches or, branding experts, such as Jordan, really can open our minds and really get us there much, much faster. So I wouldn't say to anybody who's out there that's looking to continue to grow, to get education, attend seminars, watch Zoom panels like this with people who are doing it and who've been doing it, maybe even though you might have been in business longer than some of us, it's never too late to learn how to very quickly make a pivot and a change that will be extremely meaningful. And the one thing I will say is that if you don't have pain, you won't do this. So, if our pain was not having all the right fit clients that we wanted. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? I love these clients, and these clients, the events were beautiful, but it was like, it makes you not want to be in the business. So you don't have to feel that way. There's definitely a way to attract the right fit clients. And sometimes you just have to reach out to experts outside of your own expertise.
I always say get help, because again, when I plan events, we partner with event planners. I'm a digital marketing person. Yes, we have people that know events, but I don't know things like trellises and load in times. And again, people talk to me like I'm an event planner. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So get help, when you need it. And even if it's getting a social media intern or something that over time can really take on more, or working with our white glove service, it just, I think do what you do best, close business, do speaking engagements, get out there, go to engage, go to conferences. That's what you do best. And other people can't do that for you. But if you can delegate just a piece of it, I think you'll be a little less stressed out about digital. So I'm going to move on to, thank you, Chris, so much for that.
Julie,
Priya.
we actually just had a question come in, and I wanted to just address it. So Chris, someone's asking if you can briefly explain a sellable image, and now that you've mentioned it.
Sure. So I'm going to give just a little plug to my business coach. Her name is Erica Powell. And I started doing a 6-week online course with her and other people in the luxury event industry. And halfway through, I had to, get more coaching, maybe more one-on-one coaching. But she said to us, all of us who had been pretty experienced, she said, send me 300 of the images, the professional images that you think are your best images. And I'm going to take it down to 50. And so we did that. That's a process. We went through all our photos. We sent her 300. She took it down to 50. And we had rebellion in my team. We're like, those aren't our 50 best pictures, but just behind me, looking at that one picture, that's not a room. You don't know what her wedding looked like. You have no idea. It could have been gorgeous, and it was, but it could have been not so gorgeous, your taste, not your taste. But that's not what sells. What sells is somebody who wants to get married in Miami in a beautiful dress with a beautiful background. And so I had to change my whole way of thinking, and open the mind. So hopefully that answers that question.
I love that. I think that for us, when we curate photos on behalf of our customers, we look for that storytelling. It's not always the dripping with decor photo. For example, on our Instagram that gets the more likes, it's something, usually 2 or 3 different things you can react to: her dress, the Miami skyline, all these things that really engage people with that story. So I hadn't heard of calling it a sellable image. I really like that term. So I thought I'd heard it all, Chris. I think that's great. I like it.
Well, and I would say, if you don't believe me, go to your Instagram and go see what pictures are the most liked pictures.
We're always shocked.
And you will be pleasantly surprised, probably, that they're not the images you would have thought would be the best, most looked at, most liked images. So, the proof is there, but you have to take the leap of faith and say, you know what, I don't know everything. Maybe somebody else that's an expert at branding, I should listen to them. So,
and we launched our new analytics platform called My PartySlate. So for every profile, you can actually see which photos are liked the most often. We're always surprised that a little, charcuterie board, a mini one, is off the charts. So, that doesn't mean that everything should be photos like that, but it should be in your portfolio.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
So-
turn it over. Oh, go ahead.
Really quickly, I just want to say too, that we've discovered that people really like looking at other people. So that's been a thing for us. Most of our top images are, a family with their 2 little kids at their bar mitzvah, or a bride, or a father and a bride, or, a bride looking, or a groom, having his cufflinks, fixed by his best man. So people buy an image, they buy a feeling for sure.
Story.
And a story. Yes.
I love that.
100%.
And Priya, I know you've done a lot again of thinking about this. Tell us a little bit about how you think about digital, and I'm going to brag a little bit about your profile page as well.
So I think really crazy about digital because we actually get majority of our leads through Instagram.
Mhm.
So we actually get a ton of inquiries, of which like our team vets it before, we get on a call with them to just make sure that, they know the parameters of kind of who we are. But we've been in business 12 years. I realized I can't do it all. I am not a magician. So we actually last year hired a PR company that basically came on board and is running the personal and professional social media, where we schedule out the content, we talk about the messaging. I very much have been very distinct about what I want my voice to sound like. I want it to be supporting women, breaking barriers, talking about things that were traumatic, how to break through fear, confidence levels, just really me coming into my own as a woman. Also just being candid about dealing with things like heartbreak while you're being a wedding planner and you have to be happy for everyone else and you're kind of going through your own journey, because I'm not married yet. And, I want that journey for myself. So to kind of like talk about that openly has been something that I really want to connect with people on. But I think for me, it was recognizing, okay, I can't do this anymore on my own and actually hiring the help, which means we need to cut out a portion of our budget in order to make that happen. And so that was the best decision that we made as a company, because now it's almost like a piece of my brain is now freed up, so that I can actually have the space to now do long-term vision planning. I can actually be out there a little bit more in terms of connections, relationships. I can actually be out there in terms of, I'm almost done writing my book, The Love Life of a Wedding Planner.
I can't wait to read the book.
But, there's going to be so many different things that, I want to achieve, and I can't only worry about Instagram or digital, right? That's one component of the business, but getting the help was really, really, amazing for us. It really just totally shifted our company.
Wow. And I think your photos are so vibrant and so beautiful and so diverse, so many different types of celebrations. I know you have a very, very popular profile page. And again, back to getting help. When I launched PartySlate with our white glove service, I didn't realize the white glove service would be such a relief for people that they don't have to post it. And I found out very quickly that this is something that many people do not have time for. I think you're doing a great job, and I've noticed the storytelling, Priya, that you're doing about your personal journey. And I do think people want to work with real people. I really do. And the more relatable you can be, the more people that will want to learn more about you and engage. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. And just a note for people out there too. I get way more engagement on my personal page than the professional page, because people actually just want to know about my life.
Yeah.
So I think when you start connecting with people and sharing who you are, it automatically opens the door to more business, because now they're like, oh, she's like me, or she thinks like me, or she dresses like me, or she eats at the same restaurants that I do. And so now there's another point of connection other than my work just being good, right? Because the pictures will speak for itself. It's like, who's the personality and who's, again, the personal feeling, the connection that goes along with it. It's so important.
And I think even if you're a company of 1 or a company of 5 or a company of 10, you still have this concept of your company brand and your personal brand. many times they're very tightly knit together, but you should really, again, in your one-page strategy, really think about how you differentiate. My personal brand, I talk more about female founders, my education, things like that. PartySlate is really more consumer focused, which is more about engaging people and driving to our PartySlate platform. So I love that. Nancy, let's talk a little bit about you and how you make time in your crazy day to manage your digital footprint.
Well, it is definitely the thing that is always in the back of my mind and, oftentimes gets put a bit to the side.
Yeah.
But we definitely have seen having a long-term strategy and understanding where we want our images to be and what makes sense for our brand and where we want our brand to go. So there definitely was a time where we were really thinking a lot about the different wedding blogs and where we wanted to be published. And that was also, I think, a good way of leveraging SEO, because, a wedding blog is always going to have SEO associated with weddings. But as we got into a point in our development where we wanted to have a bit more of a selective process of who we are working with, making sure that the clients we are working with were really our clients, we became a lot more intentional about where we were putting our images. And so, as it stands now, our focus primarily is on Instagram, that then gets reposted to Facebook and PartySlate, because we really feel that it aligns
Your
really well with the type of clientele
so beautiful
that we're looking to attract, the type of clientele. It really aligns really well, because of course, when it comes to weddings, oftentimes people have a big budget, or they'll put a lot of resources behind planning a beautiful wedding. But there definitely is an interesting area of like private events and people in France. So that wedding with the kind of East meets West, it was at a private estate. Yeah. And so we do quite a lot of events on private estates where, they're hosting a beautiful party. And so it's also a way of, being able to show other types of events that are not necessarily only weddings. And, people who have the means to throw a fabulous party that's not a wedding, is another level above. So it really aligns with, what we want the development of the company to be.
Well, your photos are beautiful. And again, I can't wait till we have our official PartySlate party in Paris. I joke about that all the time. PartySlate Paris, it's coming. So Jordan, I'm going to first of all ask, is there any questions that you've been seeing from the panel? No, not yet. So maybe we'll just have one last question to you, Jordan, about digital and how you think about digital. And then I'm going to do kind of a lightning round about managing, I don't want to say tough, but demanding high profile clients. So Jordan, did you want to mention anything?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as a lot of us. I have started to outsource quite a bit because there's only so much we can do as humans. And so, finding people who can help, curate images, can help tell the stories, and giving them that guidance. My background in web, I do my own site. I'm a developer, I do those things myself. So I enjoy that part of it. But there are certain things that I've learned that, ultimately is not my skill set. And there are very qualified professionals out there who love that work. And so supporting other businesses in our realm, I think, is like super important to me. And the values of my business is that sense of community. And, by me keeping it all in-house, while it does save me money, it also bogs me down in a bunch of admin and details that I don't love. So I'm able to kind of share my expertise in that kind of space. So I'm a big fan of delegating.
Yes. I always say, if you don't delegate, you're not going to be really living up to your own potential as a leader. So it's important. And I know also, though, it is hard to let go sometimes. So it might not be just how you would have said it. And it might be a little bit different, but I have to say, even in luxury, done is better than perfect. We say that a lot in technology. If you are such a perfectionist and you can only be the one to do it, then you're going to have that opportunity cost of not going to that conference, not having lunch with that luxury hotel or whatever it is. So the last area we're going to talk about is relationship building. So I have found in this kind of this ecosystem that we work in. If you want to move into the luxury space, if you're a decor company, a photographer, I have 3 of the top planners in the world here today, that luxury event planners. I would love to hear from you guys how people can build those relationships, because I know you have your network and you're looking for new people, but you also have your friendors that you can trust, that you often go to over and over. The luxury hotels, sometimes you get a new person that starts that you need to meet. Networking events, engage others. And I will just say the one last thing I think is important is finding a nonprofit or a gala that you can help with, or some way to get involved in the community, if that's something important to your business, is community engagement. And so I was presenting out in Denver, and I talked about, the Denver Art Museum, the Aspen Art Crush. What are the areas that you can bring your expertise to get into a circle of people that might be in a position to either hire you or refer business to you? So again, that's one piece of relationship building. And the other piece is client management. And I guess I'll do a lightning round. We have 10 minutes left with each of you on what have you learned, or what advice can you give on managing kind of these high-end demanding, and not in a bad way demanding, but high-end clients that are expecting really excellent service and everything tomorrow. So Chris, I'll start with you.
Yes, that's a great topic and question. So managing client expectation, it's really everything. And it's starting from day one, starting with what you can expect from your wedding planner or your event planner, and being very clear and concise from our proposal process, and really making sure that you have created processes and systems that really work to servicing these clients. When I started until today, it's a completely different industry. So the same level of service that somebody would expect in a high-end restaurant or in a luxury boutique is what they expect from us as small business owners too. So that's why I think having processes is so key to making sure that you did everything from day one to manage the client expectation. We do many things to do that. I give a lot of information up front about cost and pricing and what's different today than it was pre-COVID, and what you can expect, what type of vendor options are out there. And also the fact that we work in a creative environment, right? But our clients aren't always creatives, and they expect this level of professionalism and customer service that creatives just aren't really capable of giving. So, pulling out of our creatives what we can expect, and then putting that into words that our prospective clients can understand, that will help them to understand that if you want a proposal from this particular fabulous event designer, what that process looks like, and how long it'll take, and what you can expect, and why is it different from one, because they want to get 3 quotes, so why is it different when working with this one versus this one? So those relationships, and like Nancy had mentioned too, people don't know how to get anything done in Paris or in France. People don't know how to get anything done in Miami, and Priya, like, people don't know what goes into putting on an event in Morocco, for example. So they really do look to us to be like the expert and give them as much information as we can or are willing to give, for them to make their own decisions. That's what I'm finding most. They're really savvy. The 1% to 10% client is really savvy. They don't have a lot of time. You need to get there very quickly with them about what they can expect, and what the process will look like, and put all the decision-making power into their hands. So I think that's.
And I always say client upsets are, because I manage clients in the digital agency world for 20 years, are always a combination of missed communication or missed expectations, or the combo platter of both. And if there is an upset, I always say, you got to listen, peel the onion, listen some more, and then you can move to solving. And I think that's so important. And I know for the younger people out there, don't try to do this through email. Don't try to do this through text. Just an old-fashioned call is so important when you have a client upset.
It really is. And just you know, the entire process has really changed. You have to know who you're speaking to. You have to know who your client is, and you have to get there as quickly as possible.
I agree 100%. Priya, tell us about your managing kind of these high-end clients that are expecting a lot.
Girl, they crazy, you know? But I definitely, I don't know if anyone else has noticed it, but they are way more demanding coming out of this pandemic than what they were before. I also think I can speak for myself, but I can generally feel, just from what I've heard from a lot of people in the industry, the way we were producing and outputting prior to the pandemic was by no means healthy. And now, after the pandemic, well, I know we're still in it, but like, you know, now that we're kind of resurgent and we're coming back, I can't produce at that level anymore. Like, my mental health is such a priority for me now. So I now set the expectations very clear. You have a monthly Zoom with us. These are deliverables for the month. This is what we're working on. Feel free to email or, you know, chat with us in between those, but here are your April deliverables. And so I make it clear very upfront, something that we are giving ourselves, just because we know how inundated vendors are right now. If a decorator says they're going to get me the quote in 3 weeks, we tell them 4, because we know we got to give room for error. We got to know that we're on flights too. We might not be able to review it before giving it to them. So we're just almost buffering the expectations. We've made it very clear from the very initial phone call, 2022 is crazy. You know, there's supply chain issues, labor issues, trucking issues. So things are very different. And and maybe this is something that everybody can kind of chime in. What a $500,000 wedding could get me in 2019 is not what I can get for that money now, because everybody's prices have went up.
I'm hearing that across.
Everybody is different. My own prices have went up. So I can only imagine it's that way for everybody. So for me, the client expectation is very upfront in the initial call, because as much as I will adjust to the client, I also have to set the blueprint for this is how I work. And if this working style does not align with you, if you want to talk to me every day about the cookies you made last night, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You know, if you want to send them for me to taste test, absolutely. But, you know, I can't just shoot the shit with you. For lack of a better word.
The monthly Zoom call. I think that's a really great way to like save up your questions. We're going to have our monthly Zoom. You kind of have to scale your communications. Jordan, in the invitations world, many people want to touch and feel and actually look at things. How do you manage that in the kind of new world we're working in?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing with stationery is it is global. So a lot of our consults now will do it virtually. And, you know, if we have enough planning time in advance, I'll send paper samples of the stuff we're going to talk about. So they literally have it in their hands. They get a beautiful box. They're like, oh my God, this is gonna be amazing. And it's just like, cool, I get to touch. And I'm like, pick up the green one. And they're like, that's the one I like, or I don't like that one. So those conversations are there. I think I'm in a lot of alignment with Chris and Priya, in the sense that we've started, you know, over communicating and building a lot of transparency in our processes, more so when we get into production, because there's a lot of communication that happens at the beginning. But for us, we're like, we're just going to go away for 6 weeks and make your beautiful invitations. You're going to get them in the mail. And then there's like, are they on track? You know, where are we at? Have things arrived? So we've just been kind of giving just a like, hey, you know, this week we've been printing things, you know, papers arriving, just so that just that little bit, it's not a lot of work. It's literally 5 extra minutes of time, but they're like, yay, I'm still being considered. I'm not being forgotten in that sense.
It's that regular rhythm that stops the panic, I think. So I think that's amazing. And I know we're running out of time. We have a couple more minutes. Nancy, I wanted to hear from you on managing not only kind of high profile clients, but from like a different time zone that you're working in.
A lot of it has to do with anticipating questions, or kind of the lateral thinking of they're asking this question, but what are the other questions that might be, what else are they thinking about, or what else, or where are they going with this line of questioning, and almost being prepared, not to necessarily jump the gun, but have all the information that that could be useful at the ready, so that, you know, it's being dosed out. And I think that they really appreciate it, because they understand that it's not like they ask a question, you give an answer, they ask another question, you give another answer. It's not, you know, back and forth. It's really that you've understood from, you know, kind of taking a step back and have a bit of perspective on the overall topic, and you can, you know, frame it differently, because I think, oftentimes our clients are working in, professional settings. They're people who are very intelligent. They have demanding jobs. And so they are, often, managing projects or, have that type of like higher order thinking. And I think that it's really helpful when you can show them that in your own domain, you're bringing it to the table, and that, and I think it also is helpful in building trust, because when you're dealing with, long distance and time difference, it's, establishing that trust can sometimes be a bit tricky, but, when you're anticipating their questions and they see a little bit what you're doing, that does reassure them.
So we are out of time. I could have talked for another hour. Any closing thoughts that anyone wants to share? I know some people have asked, everyone wants to work with the luxury planner. So you guys probably feel like attacked at like networking events, like people want to work with you. Maybe you could share kind of in your closing thoughts, what is the best way new partners approach you to get on your radar? And I always say, don't throw a wedding ring at someone. Like it's not going to happen overnight, build a relationship. So I'd love to hear a lightning round of that. And then I'll wrap up. So Chris, any thoughts on that question? Like how do people get on your radar?
Coming out of COVID is really good for other businesses, creative businesses, to get to work with some of the businesses that they wanted to work with, because the demand is so great and the supply is so little that we can't always go to our tried and trues only anymore. And so it's giving, nobody wants to guinea pig a new partnership with their luxury client. But by the same token, there's a lot of talent out there. So we follow a lot of people, we make relationships, we add people to our lists, and we just hope to work them in, because a lot of times we do get 2 or 3 quotes, or we at least will show a client maybe 6 or 7 photographers for them to pick the 2 or 3 that they want to get a quote from. So we're able to now throw into the mix, but we do a lot of vetting. A lot of vetting too, to make sure that we are the right fit for each other. And because you don't know, if you've never worked with somebody, what the finish line is going to look like and where there's going to be a hiccup. Like you could have the most beautiful invitations, but if they're running late and they're not delivered on time, everything stops with the planner. And I'm sure everybody agrees that, no matter what happens, no matter what happens, if they remember the one little thing that went wrong, it's always the planner's fault. So that's why those relationships are really important, and it's building trust and, reaching out to different people and, saying, I'd really like to work with you. Please take a look at my work. And, seeing that they're working in some of the same venues. It's like it doesn't happen overnight, but it's like one of those give and takes. And I also want to mention that, right now, the volume of inquiries that is coming in, I don't think anybody in our careers has ever seen the type of volume that's coming in. And we know that they're not everybody's for us, but we still have to respond to every single one of those inquiries. So streamlining our process and making sure that we can communicate effectively who we are, what they can expect, what we do, how we charge, and all of that as quickly as possible in a processed kind of a way will help us, because there's just not enough hours in the day.
I hear you.
It's like real world problems. I'm not complaining at all. And by the same token, you can lose your passion very quickly after, and it's very exhausting to talk to people all day long. So we have, right now we're in a stage digitally, and where we're trying to all navigate how we can better give the information to prospective clients, deliver it more quickly, and in a way that still leaves us time for passionately doing what we love to do.
I love it. And Priya or Nancy, did you have anything else, or Jordan you wanted to add?
I just want to be candid and say, if I have to leave my friends and family for a weekend to come hang out with you and your friends and family for a weekend, I need the client to feel like friends and family, and I need my vendor team to feel like my friends.
Yeah.
So if new vendors approach me, it's like, you're only going to get me if I feel like we can be friends. Like if there's a weird disconnect, because there's so much camaraderie. I do specifically South Asian weddings. So they're not one-day events. They're like 3-4 days. So you're literally there for
a road trip together.
It's like a Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Wednesdays, everyone's arriving, production day, and then it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, farewell, brunch, go. So if I'm going to be with you for that long, I need to feel like there is this sense of like humor. You have my back. There have been times where like I've been pushed against a wall and I'm like, I need all hands on deck. I need photographers moving furniture right now, because there's no way I'm going to get this done. But I would never be able to ask that to someone who I don't have that relationship with. So relationships, again, are really important, but also being friends with the person first really helps.
Yes. And the trust. And Nancy, any final thoughts, or Jordan?
I would say yes, having a good rapport with the vendors, and that, beautiful work doesn't translate necessarily into, a beautiful relationship that you're going to have with them. And so, if, a photographer does beautiful images, it's not sufficient if they're, intolerable to sit around a dinner table with when you're, having the vendor meal, or, if a florist does really beautiful work, but, it takes them weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get back to you. And, there's someone else who also does beautiful work, who is extremely responsive and gives you the service that you would want for your clients. And, they're always kind of thinking about you as a client, as the bride or groom that gets married over and over again. I think that, the vendors that have that type of customer service, not only to their final clients, but also to us, is really key.
Okay, well, I had so many questions and so many people wanted to talk. So I apologize, I went a few minutes late, but Jordan, any final thoughts as I share kind of our next steps and how we can help?
Yeah, I think for me as a vendor working with planners, it's a little bit different in that perspective, but it's really been about A, getting in the room, but B, it is relationships 100%. Like my strongest relationships are people who I jive with and jive with me. And, being able to showcase that in places like this and, networking events on social where people get to see me and my creativity and my approach and my thought process, that is what sells, a vendor to a partner. Because
I love your Canadian accent, by the way.
Thank you. It always comes out in odd times. So it's just like, that's to me what builds really strong relationships. And
awesome. And I also think social media, instead of just the liking, put a comment. It's 10 times more valuable than just a like. So think about how those relationships, and when we found when you credit people on PartySlate and they get that email, you've been credited, that's another little adrenaline rush. Like, wow, someone's marketing me on my behalf. So all those things are great, but how we can help. We know you guys are really busy. We will send you the contact information, the PartySlate profiles for all of our panel as a follow-up. They're amazing people and resources. We'll send you a PDF of this presentation. I love doing website reviews. I'm a total geek. I can do them in about 4 minutes. Happy if you scan this QR code or just go to partyslate.com. I think it's /review. I will be happy to review your website. If you don't have a free profile yet, we always say try before you buy to get with PartySlate. You can go sign up for one, or we can help you with our white glove service. We also are hosting a ton of industry events, LA, Dallas. And we just had an amazing one in New York where I saw Priya. Please let us know if you'd like to be on our guest list. We're doing both premium member only and industry events in the coming year. So thank you to our panel. I am inspired by you. It is not easy to be working in this crazy, crazy environment. I know it's a good problem to have, but I also know how stressful it is right now for everyone. I really believe inspired events inspire people, and the work that you guys are doing is so inspirational, and you're creating these memories for people. So thank you to my panel for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.